Welcome to the It Crowd podcast. My name is Josh Lowrey. We are coming to you live from the Baker Hughes Annual Meeting in Florence, Italy. Richard, this is our second podcast of the day. This has been an unbelievable day. We had a first podcast that was just off the charts. We're going to do a second podcast, going to be even better somehow. What do you think about this podcast? So, what do you think about the show so far?
We had a chance to walk around between these two podcasts, and number one, it's not just the technology that's here. What really has stood out to me is just the passion of everybody that's here when you talk to them at these booths. The passion that they have, not only for the technology they're talking about, Baker as a company, being here, the entire environment. There's just an energy here that you don't get anywhere else.
You know, we're going to talk about that in a minute. The expertise of the people that are here is not to be exactly ignored. I mean, from anything from the communications department to the people that are talking about the products out there. It is unbelievable. So what we like to do is ignore our guests for as long as possible and just make it the Richard and Josh show until they go. Yeah, we got some people out here. All right, so I told you, these intros are not easy to do here. We have two guests today, which is going to be great. We have Laura von Beers, she's the Global Executive Director for Digital Gas Technology Services. And we have Aravind Yarlagadda, who is the Senior Vice President of IET Industrial Solutions. How are we doing, guys?
Thank you, that was perfect.
Well, thank you very much for your help. And now that we've got you two introed, I wanted to just compliment Baker Hughes for a minute and your company and your team. And when we were getting ready off air, there's a team of people prepping and getting ready. And, you know, we don't have that at our office. That's when we're doing these things. You know, we're not going through all this, and we've seen that at every show that's been happening today. So this is the last podcast of the day. This is the first day of the 2026 Baker Hughes Annual Meeting. So we had time to walk around to see the show, to go listen to the speeches. And because we wanted to be prepared for you guys, we went and saw the products that we're going to be talking about. And we went looking for you two. You were nowhere to be found, so you were not helping us early on. But we went and we found some people that are in your departments. And it is unbelievable, the preparedness that we ran into.
Thank you so much.
Italians, Americans. On that note, we've got great notes. I'm totally going to screw this up. Can you just give
I worked hard on those.
I know. But if you don't mind, just kind of tell us who you guys are individually. Laura, we'll start with you. And then from there, I'd like you to just kind of talk about your team. I think the teams need to be identified. It is incredible. So please.
Absolutely. So thank you, first of all, for having us, for hosting us, and for your compliments for this conference. I am completely in agreement with you. It's amazing how this has shaped up again this year. First year was actually my very first annual meeting, and because it was my first year, I just walked around being completely impressed with everything that was going on.
And what year was that?
Last year.
Last year was first year. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry.
Last year was my first year annual meeting. So absolutely, it really is the teams that are making this happen, the preparation that goes into an event like this, and it really is the moment in the year where we can show off all the good work that we're doing, all the innovation that we bring. So absolutely an amazing couple of days.
Okay, love it. Aravind.
So first of all, I think thank you for your compliments and thank you for recognizing the scale of the show. Right? I think it's absolutely brilliant. This is my third time I'm actually attending the annual meeting of Baker Hughes. It's always in Florence, thank God. So here's the thing. I mean, you asked a really good question. So who am I, right? I mean, how do I identify myself?
Right.
So name's Aravind Yarlagadda, business leader, an engineering background. Thoroughbred engineering background, started off as a systems engineer, then fell in love with IT and fell in love with the industrial side of IT, and then that's how I started my career and progressing. And Baker Hughes is an exceptional place to work, and we deal with energy technology and industrial technology, and we are at the confluence of both. And if you have heard our chairman actually speak today afternoon, right? It's basically we understand the energy sources, we help draw energy from those sources, and we link it to industrial outcomes. And in my own view, the linkage between these energy sources and the outcomes that we actually deliver to industries like paper and pulp, mining, oil and gas, I mean, water, wastewater, etc. The link basically is IT.
Yes, it
The
is.
link, call it digital, call it software, call it AI. The link basically is IT, right? So I identify myself as an IT guy wearing an OT suit, if you will.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm talking about the teams here, right, in terms of the brilliant work they've done. Every year is different. Every year, I think it's a level above. We are in the business of developing solutions and bringing those solutions to bear for specific outcomes that our industries, our customers actually need. So given the scale of the show you'd have seen, I think there's a diversity of products, there's a diversity of solutions which are comprised of products. And in all of this, there is a huge IT backbone, which you have to remember.
Digital throughout.
Yeah, and what I mean by that, what I mean by the IT backbone is there's an element of a user interface, there is an element of technology infrastructure that actually goes in the background that's all fueled and funneled through IT systems. So that's the identity of the show. That's the identity of the people who are actually running the show.
Well, I mean, to your point here, there's a theme of this year's show called the energy equation. And it's just an amazing thing when you say, well, I've always liked IT. Okay, that's really, I understand that. It's one thing to like industrial, but the timing of how the world is coming together now, to have your passions really align with industrial, manufacturing, AI, IT, and the development of all that, now.
Yeah.
It's happening now.
And maybe needed to build on what Aravind was saying earlier, when the IT and the OT domain, how it's converging right now is also extremely interesting. And combining that with the deep domain knowledge that we have as an OEM brings about something that is quite unique. And that's what you see also that we show on exhibit today. So the way that we innovate in OT is deliberate, is something that we need to make sure that it fits with the life cycle of our equipment, that it fits with the safety that is needed in order to innovate in the OT domain. You can't go fast and break things in OT.
Right.
But then matching that up with what is happening now in AI in the IT domain and making sure that together you bring about new innovative solutions to your customer is something that is really the moment that we're in. And that is what drives our energy to keep creating new solutions and find ways to provide more value for the customers.
You know, we had Jim McCabe, but it was James. What was Jim's last name this morning that we had on the podcast?
Brady.
Jim Brady. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Jim McCabe is a and Jim's comment was, his theme throughout his entire podcast was trust.
Yes.
And it's that when you're in manufacturing, like they always talk about, well, you can have quality, you can have price, or you can have delivery, right? No. Well, if you don't have quality, then what are you even here for?
Yes.
Like, there's no chance. That's the trust. It's like you have to have that, or don't come around. And what you just described is, I mean, just, it's trust.
Yes.
Like, why rush?
Yes.
You're a 100-year-old company. You're only going to hurt yourself if you
Exactly.
try to rush a solution in.
And in the end, the operator needs to trust the outcome of what the innovation, what the digital technologies tell them. The insights that we bring back needs to be something that resonates with them. And they need to feel like it is the thing that they actually want to do in their operation. In the end, they know best.
Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, you know, so as I told you, we walked around and we saw some of the products you have. And I'd like to talk about some of those products, because when you say they have to trust you, we were looking at some of the softwares that you guys have. Can you please expand on how do you go talk about that? Do they know what they want, or do you have to go, hey, this is what we have available for you? How does that develop?
I think once upon a time, we actually used to talk about, this is our product, this is our solution. But I think we've become more sophisticated over the last 5 years.
Okay.
We start to talk about what are the problems that our customers are looking to solve, right? Could this be related to reliability of heavy assets, right? Like a turbine, like a compressor. Is it reliable? I mean, does it have a long remaining useful life? So we help determine that through our products, right? But instead of talking about our products, we talk about what problems can we solve for you. So understanding the remaining useful life of a heavy asset, right? Or a collection of assets, that's one thing. You have a fertilizer process, or you have an ammonia production process. how do we maximize the efficiency of that particular process? How do you maximize the energy efficiency of that particular process? And how do you maximize the output of that process? So these are problems that we actually help solve. And when we approach it that way, with a broad frame of reference for a specific problem, the customers' departments, or IT departments as well as OT departments, their ears perk up, their eyes perk up, and they say, look, I mean, can you explain more, right? I mean, can you explain how this looks like? Can you explain how you bring this to reality, right?
Right, that's the question.
So, and then we start explaining, look, I mean, this is how our product looks like. I mean, this is, can we understand what your IT backbone looks like? IT is IT everywhere, right? I mean, when we talk information technology to our industrial customers or our energy customers, it's the same network backbone, maybe amplified, maybe proprietary. It's the same kind of data, but maybe diverse in nature, right? It's the same storage mechanisms, but maybe at a larger profile. So the IT backbone by profile is the same, but could be magnified or amplified in certain contexts, if you will. And that's what we need to explain to the customer. When Laura and I actually go visit customers or we talk to customers, we have to explain that very clearly in terms of, look, it's the same skill set that's actually required from an IT standpoint, but you have to apply that in a domain context, and you have to apply that in the context of an environment which is pristine, or data that's actually flowing out of your environment into a different enterprise context. So those are some nuances that we help explain to customers when we talk about those problems.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, and, a customer can look at a solution and say, I understand what you're trying to solve for. I completely get it. But then at the same time, there are issues that come up in a lot of places, whether it's data silos, cyber security concerns, organizational change, and the pace of that change. How do you help customers kind of overcome those more softer concerns rather than the solution's going to work concerns?
I'll let Laura actually start with that, and then I'll add.
Yeah, sure, of course. So I think there is a couple of ways to look at answering your question. First of all, maybe to contextualize, the place I work in Baker Hughes is the services business. So what we do is we service our own equipment, and we use digital solutions to do that better, smarter, more effective. And that's the place where we innovate. So what we do is and the equipment that we make, if you've walked around and you've spoken to some people, you will have realized that it's quite complicated. It's critical equipment.
It is very complicated.
Exactly.
It's intelligent. Do you call it complicated? Because obviously it's smart.
Well,
but it seemed very usable when they were showing it to us.
And also we complicate it with some terms, technology terms that we actually introduce in the industry.
Okay. It just seemed very usable, though. That's why.
Yes, and it has a special place, of course, and Aravind can tell you more about how the plant operates and how each unique element in the plant plays into each other, and how that should be an ecosystem that works perfectly aligned. The equipment that we look at in the part of the business that I work in is our own equipment, so our OEM equipment. And what we do is we monitor that equipment 24/7 because it's critical for our customers to make sure that this is up and running, and also. What they sometimes need from us is our deep knowledge of the equipment that we build. So we can, if you think about digitalization and if you think about taking data to create solutions and insights, without the context in which that happens, without the deep knowledge of the physics, of the design of the equipment, of the specific circumstances in which it operates, it could be very cold at that moment in time, it could be very hot. All of this impacts how it works. So we have a human in the loop, essentially, where we have someone with that deep domain knowledge that can take that context into account when they see what comes out of the analytics, so that they can help the customer also work through that problem and make sure that it gets solved in time.
Well, I think, too, one of the solutions that we were looking at was the pipe analysis, right? So I was intrigued by that one because when you look at the way that the output that the software was giving, it really takes it from, hey, I fixed that when it breaks, to I caught this 4 weeks earlier and was able to plan for this and save downtime and cost, all the things that, always that adds up, right? That now you're able to kind of solve for those. Again, it's not a solution, but it's actually further ahead of it than what it would have been.
Well, and before I want to jump, what you described, Laura, actually exactly how your people out here did. So it's one thing to say, well, we have somebody that analyzes the data before and then alerts the customer. You mentioned 24/7 monitoring. You're doing that. It's what you call your eye center, right?
Yes.
Where are your locations for that?
We have one here in Florence, so you're welcome to come visit.
How do you get that duty over the Houston job? But that's fine. So Houston, Florence,
And KL.
okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're monitoring 24/7 there. Someone is identifying customer X. They're looking at the product, for instance, your coordinate, right? And they're taking a look at this. And it doesn't say alert. I think it said message, right, on your dashboard. Comes up, and there's either an issue that needs to be identified in a negative way, or an issue that could be identified in a productive way.
Yes.
That's done in two ways, right? See if I learned anything today. It's either the algorithm is saying this is going to be a problem on parameters that the customer, has set. It's reaching a certain percentage, like, hey, we've reached 41%, for instance, right? You're not supposed to go over 40%. Or that's one thing, but your guy or girl at the eye center says, hey, this is past the parameters, make sure everything's correct, now alert customer.
I think he's hired.
I just want to make sure I understood it, because I thought, well, okay, back to Jim's point earlier about trust. Do you trust the computer just to tell you everything and just like, all right, it's great, I'm at 41%, hit the button and send it back down?
Exactly.
I think to the point that Laura was making earlier, right? She used the term human in the loop, right? So the human in the loop basically is actually taking a look at the dashboard, that specific user experience dashboard, understanding what are the alarms, insights, signals that are actually coming in from the dashboard, and you don't have automation or automated action there. You have the human in the loop actually taking a look at that alarm and understanding with her domain expertise, saying, okay, there is something wrong here, so let me give that information back to the customer.
So this goes back to what Jim said earlier, how, Jim's had a stint in Silicon Valley, and he said, look, there's a lot of smart people out there, and they say, hey, this is going to work. And you're like, well, how do you know? Like, do you have domain expertise? Well, no, I've got good math. And he's like, I don't know, I'll take the good math and the domain expertise, please. Yeah. And I feel like that's what you're describing here, right?
Yeah, exactly. The human in the loop.
Human in the loop.
Yeah. So I think
trademark that immediately. Yeah. Comms department.
We had a very interesting conversation with a group of strategic customers today morning, right? And they use the same term, human in the loop, right? And that cannot be avoided until the system learns to a certain extent in a repeatable way with different kinds of data, so that it can interpret the action on its own. And you see that, and our customers also use the term a transparent glass box, where I think they can see things in action, right? So you see those things in action, you can, at some point of time you can trust the system,
right?
Then you walk away, right? I want to go back to the couple of questions that you asked regarding the data silos and the change management framework that's required, right? When you look at the OT context, right, or the operational context of data that's coming in, there is two kinds of audiences. There is the Gen X, Gen Z audience that is very familiar and very digitally literate or IT literate, very fluent with the tools that are actually coming onto the market, and they require a response in 2 or 3 seconds or 2 or 3 clicks, or they get impatient, right?
Exactly.
True.
Face it, we all have kids, right? So the other audience is an experienced legacy crowd who've been in the OT environment for, let's say, 20 years, like me, right? 20 or 25 years. And they have trouble learning the latest context of the IT tools. So how do you bridge the gap? So the partner or the vendor who understands the IT landscape, who can actually develop these tools that can bridge the gap, is the winner.
Right.
So, and that's where I think the training, the change management, everything comes in, bridging the gap between these two kinds of audiences as they get trained. One group gets trained in the new IT tools that come in the market. The other group gets trained in the domain. So it's bridging the gap and making them understand, making them go through the change, if you will. So That's where the trick is.
So that's on the human side, and I appreciate that. One of the things that I was looking at with Cordant that we've seen with other, customers, clients, other people, they get lost in, they end up investing in a lot of digital tools that don't communicate properly. They get lost in, in the mire of stuff, and they get frustrated, and a lot of projects end up not coming to fruition, right? So how do you guys ensure with Cordant, because there's not a single application that we looked at today that was not talking to 5 or 6 other applications coming from the customer. So if you can walk through how you make that work, because that, to me, that's what really separates Baker Hughes from everybody else.
See, when you look at the landscape of IT applications, right, like ERP applications, CRM applications, there is some inherent complexity in how IT applications are integrated, they come together, how do they consume data, how does the user consume the value.
Right.
The same kind of complexity is actually inherent in some of the stuff that we do from the operational side. To answer your question very specifically about the Cordant applications, right, the Cordant software applications and how they address that concern, we put the customer in the driving seat. Do you need an out-of-the-box application, out-of-the-box IT application or OT application that solves your specific set of problems, and you can take it and you can run with it in a software as a service environment, in a hosted environment? Go take it, right? There's another set of customers who will say, look, you have this application, it solves for asset integrity, or it solves for optimizing process, or it solves for understanding the efficiency of energy usage. I may need more than that, right? And I may need to customize the content or the value that you give me. In that case, we provide a platform. That platform that consists of some IT widgets or IT componentry, right? Whether it's user experiences, whether it's hosting on the cloud, whether it's hosting on your environment, whether it's talking to outside the network, whether it's storing the data. All this componentry we give to the customer and say, look, in the context of your incremental value required on top of what we offer, we can give you certain interfaces that you can program with and that you can offer customized value, and we can be the custodians and stewards of that. So those are 2 ways we solve the problem.
That's and that's smart to be able to offer 2 ways, because in my experience, I've seen companies who they try and force you into one way, and it never really works, right?
Look, it's an evolutionary journey, right? We never got it right the first time. I mean, and that's why talking to our IT customers helps a lot in terms of that convergence, right? With the OT environment that we actually specialize in, and most times, I think there is a wall, if you will, right? And we are also in the business of that IT-OT convergence, and I have to say we are doing well talking to the enterprise customers that we are talking to.
Maybe to build on that and to your question regarding data silos, when I start to think about that and hearing you speak, I think there is so much more in front of us. Because going back to the notion that this is a business that has been in existence for so many years, the amount of data that we've collected, so coming back to the services business, right? In the end, the value isn't in the insight. The value is in actioning the insight. It's great that you see what is going to happen, but if you don't have the right skills, if you don't know if you don't have the parts to fix something, if you don't have the right engineers on site to help you, then what? Then you have an insight. Well, this is great. So combining, back to IT and OT, to me, it would be extremely interesting, and that's a journey we're on, that how can we further automate transforming that insight into an action on our side? Because we have an abundance, like as an industry, we have an abundance of data. We've been collecting OT data since so long. We're bringing it to the cloud now, and now what's next? What's available to us? So I keep thinking, if we unlock all the data that we have in our business, if you think about the root cause analysis that we do, if you think about the work orders, everything people write up, all the great thinking that goes into servicing our customers better. What if we start to combine that smarter? That's sort of, for me, is the journey that we're on. That, to me, like, that's data silos, but that's possible now to unlock that. And with AI at scale, using that in your IT, combining that with OT, then what's next? Like, to me, that's exciting.
Well, and you kind of made a comment. You said, and maybe I interpreted, you said we didn't get it right, meaning
It's an evolutionary journey.
Yeah, well, okay. So I did hear it right then. Ultimately, though, what she's describing didn't exist 10 years ago, right?
It did not.
Exactly.
And now it is the opportunities. Like, who knows what's about to happen?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, just to
it's
build
incredible.
just to build on that even further, right? I mean, we are builders here, so the data silos, specifically the data silos. When you look at so the maintenance spare parts data, the manufacturing data that's in SAP or some kind of an IT tool, right? So that's IT context, right? Then you come into the asset data, the asset-specific data. Okay, is it a rotor shaft which is going through torsion, going through toil, and when is it going to break? So basically, these are two data silos. The real value to the customer is basically integrating that with the context of the domain, which is the asset wear and tear with the maintenance spare parts data.
Exactly.
And combining the data in a single repository, not to get too technical, I'm sorry, but combining that in a single repository with the domain context of the specific use case and the problem that the customer wants solved. So that's where you can eliminate it, and that's where I think people like us come into the picture.
Nothing is too technical for us today. Your Italians
Awesome.
fully trained us up, so they were excellent. As a layperson, I see what's going on. I used to sell BOPs to Hydro, which becomes Baker, and then so I see all these different parts from the steel side of things, the shafts, Lucchini shafts, whatnot. You mentioned there's data silos, but there's also manufacturing plants across the world that you guys have. Are you allowed to talk to whoever you want to, and vice versa? Because you said you're working in the services. Does that mean that you go talk to different facilities around the world and say, how can we make this better? What do you have that's holding us up in Houston that should be working better with Florence, for instance, or Nueva Pignone?
So I think that what back to what Aravind said earlier, the point is that we are reflecting continuously. How do we make the lives of our customers better? How do we help them achieve their goals? How do we make sure that they meet opportunities that potentially they didn't even know they could meet?
That's the question. It's like the old Steve Jobs. Like, what is the customer doesn't want that? The customer doesn't know what they want sometimes, right? I mean, so you're going to them with solutions saying, we think this will work?
To answer your question, and back to where we started as well on trust and on.
Yep.
So to us, we take sort of two streams of innovation. So one is where we innovate on the equipment. So where it's important to take risk almost as the architecture of your innovation. You can't go faster you can't go and break things. What we love to do in software, go fast, break things, try again. You don't do that on an equipment that will have the potential of harming lives, of causing environmental impact, of causing big operational problems. And also you have to take into account the life cycle of that equipment. So there we are deliberate. We go at the pace that we should take, and we take risk into account. There where it doesn't touch the equipment, we can go much faster. At the same time, when we do that rapid innovation, what we want to do is make sure that we pull the customer into the loop as soon as we can. So we want to build the prototypes, build the demos, and make sure that we get the feedback from our customers to tell us, okay, yes, you're heading in the right direction, or no, you don't. Because it's much easier to do that when you see something, when you get the feel for what is being offered to you, rather than a concept or a theoretical notion. So getting into that cycle to work with people much faster, much sooner in that innovation cycle is something that we increasingly do.
Well, and I would imagine they're inviting you in sooner today than they used to. Am I? No?
Well,
Yes?
to me, my answer would be yes, because we're all going through that same journey. So in our industry, we're all in the same place where we have to find out how does IT and OT...
Actually, your reactions are perfect for this. This is perfect for this next question. So
yeah, one of the things that Jim brought up this morning that we talked about was, especially with the rate at which technology is changing and new shiny things are coming out. I would say, one of you take what would you say that's out there that you think is maybe overhyped as a bright shiny thing that it's too much of it, and then what would you say is out there that's underrated that people should be looking at more?
I always think time travel is too high.
I thought it was underrated.
I thought you had a flux capacitor over there.
Other than time travel and like quantum entanglement, right? I mean, there's a few things that are also hyped too much. Hype not because they don't have technological value. It's just that they may be ahead in the market, right? especially in the context of
Energy, sure,
energy, right? Generative AI in the context of our domain usage, right? I think sometimes it may be overhyped. Right? Agentic AI is actually picking up, but I think it shouldn't be too overhyped also. It needs to be for niche applications. Correct. Agentic AI solves its purpose with very good IT workflows, right? So the hype versus reality. You look at some of these AI technologies. Yes, I think some of these are really overhyped. Physical AI, for example, it doesn't have a place yet. I mean, yes, robots, autonomous systems, absolutely, they will have value at some point.
Yeah.
Do they have it today? Not
at scale.
Yeah,
right.
Not at scale. Exactly, not at scale. That's the right word I'd use.
I'm afraid that Aravind stole everything I wanted to say here. No, those would be the exact same. I think because they are nice and shiny, it's interesting to talk about Gen AI and to talk about the agentics, but the real use cases, I think if they're there, they're more hidden as well. We do some of it, so we do some with the eye center and the robotics, so back to all the things that are hyped. So we do use the triggers in the eye center to see, okay, what's happening? We see oil leakage. Let's send the robot to check, is that really happening? It's better than sending a human, especially if you're offshore, if you're in remote locations, if you're in a dangerous environment. So there definitely is a use case for that. But maybe it's been too hyped, yes.
Well, I mean, we saw a lot of technology today that I grew up selling drill pipe. I grew up selling, tool joints and BOPs and fluid ends and whatever. 2005, this stuff didn't exist. 2010, a lot of this technology. And then now we're 2026. I don't feel like I'm that old.
Not at all.
It just feels like this massive change has happened in a 20-year career, 25-year career. So what is maybe early hype now, it's going to be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just imagine how long ago it was when ChatGPT came.
Yeah.
Well,
what is it? I think not even 3 years ago.
Right?
Yes, exactly. And the amount of times that you now use it. So, there is much more to come. And to your point, it will be much faster as well. So it's good also to make use that you're aware of what's happening, that you experiment into the technology. Even if it doesn't drive direct revenues, you need to know what's happening. How does it work? How do we utilize this?
Well, and I really believe one of the things you said a minute ago, that you have the information. You have the data, you have the experience. How do we get it, use it, coordinate it, just study it, figure it out? That is going to be, you can apply that to a lot of healthcare. There's a lot of different ways you can use that.
We can go down a rabbit hole.
You really can.
We go down lots of rabbit holes.
My point is just it is there.
Yes.
It's just, that's not 25 years away though.
Yes.
There's things that took 25 years to develop, and it's going to happen quickly, right?
Yes.
So, by the way, I want the audience to know this has been a phenomenal podcast. We've gone, almost 40 minutes. It happens much faster than you think.
Yes.
Yeah. And we're in Florence, Italy. The annual meeting is at the Florence Opera House. So that noise, if you've heard noise in the background, there is the invitation. You are the last podcast of the day. We've nailed it, of course. We knew we would. And they are calling us to go watch the Baker Hughes. There's an opera.
There's going to be an opera.
Yes.
Yeah,
Are you coming?
Well, listen to this voice. It's not going to be me, but I'll be there. I am going to come, yes. Is there anything you guys would like to wrap up the podcast with, other than this is the best one you've ever been on?
Yeah, I think you touched on a point, asked a question regarding, the last 3-4 years, and ChatGPT as an example, right? The exponential growth, right? And how fast people are latching onto the technology. There's a couple of things that have happened over the last 3 to 5 years that have enabled the transition, the trend, that growth, if you will. Number one, I think the vast availability of data and information to both crowds, the IT crowd
Correct.
and the OT crowd. It's massive. It's massive, right? Which is contextualized data. That's one. The second piece is the vast array of information technology tools that are available in the market that allow you to build on top of each other very quickly without writing the complex code that we used to write 20 or 30 years ago. So these two, the convergence of these two trends, right, has enabled that explosive growth.
Yes.
Explosive growth. There is also some kind of buzzword used in the industry called consumerization of IT. So how do you bring these massive scale tools, IT scale tools, right, to the OT environments. The partner, the vendor who actually does that brings those tools. I mean, take the case of immersive reality as an example, right? Or take the case of virtual reality for that matter, to keep it more simple. How do you apply that in simple context in a plant floor? You build that and you deploy that at scale. I mean, that's basically taking an information technology tool and
Dear guests, please
applying
make
it
your
at
way
scale.
to the auditorium.
So,
The special
I have one other
performance
question.
will be starting.
Where do you guys live in Houston? Each of you work in Houston?
I live in California.
Okay,
I live in the Netherlands.
in the Netherlands.
Wow.
And
We didn't.
That,
Wow. That's
that
amazing.
actually,
Dear guests,
this microphone, I'm gonna tear it out. It sounds like I'm the only one that deserves a microphone today. I am really surprised by that. And what I mean is the coordination and the information, it's seamless. Like you two sound exactly like the people that we talked to from Italy. This eye center, I mean, it is just seamless information.
Thank you.
I'm actually surprised you don't both work in the Houston office. That's how, just on top
That
of
is
it.
such a compliment.
It
Yes,
sounds,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it really is. I mean, this just instant, and like everything we heard today is right here. And the fact that you're not all in the same office is quite surprising.
You made my day, and I think we are ready for beverages.
Let's go get some.
Yes, sir.
I have a final thought because you
Talk
were
away.
asking me for my final thought
I'm
as well.
sorry. I like to hear myself
Yes,
talk.
well, but I want no.
go ahead.
So no, but I was reflecting back to trust because that's how we started, right? And I think what you see now, if you talk about AI and the way that it can take on so many activities that people used to do, and how that also leads sometimes to a wave of people leaving companies. I think the beauty of back to trust and back to how we keep building and the opportunities that we see, the beauty of what we have as a business is that the domain knowledge is very unique and it's super valuable. So for us, what AI will bring is that it will not replace jobs. It will literally help people to focus their attention on the things that really matter and are important. So in our industry, that's what I wanted to part with. All I see is opportunities. I see growth. I see us making so much more impact. And that is what excites me.
I
And
love it.
also that this is the best podcast
You've ever been on.
I've ever been
And good
on.
luck leaving this one. Can't even imagine after this. Well, listen, anything you want to part with?
No. Again, thank you to Baker Hughes for having us
That's
out
right.
here. Thank you both for being amazing
Thank you guys
guests.
for having us.
Thank you.
And again, we could go down a rabbit hole and this could go on forever, but we have
Nailed it.
operator here and
Yes.
we have beverages to consume.
Absolutely. Let's go get him.
Laura,
Yes.
Aravind, thank you guys very much.
Thank
Baker
you.
Hughes, thank you much. If you want to check us out on the social media channels, check us out. Baker Hughes, great job.
Thank you guys.
Done.
Appreciate it.
Well done.